Guest of Honor, Dr. Hanif Qureshi, IPS Joint Secretary, Ministry of Heavy Industries, Government of India. As Joint Secretary Automobiles, Dr. Hanif Qureshi has dealt with modernization of Indian automobile industry. He has been administering the FAME scheme Phase 2 and 2 PLI schemes in Ministry of Heavy Industries. After doing BTech in Electrical Engineering and MTech in IT, Dr. Qureshi completed his MBA and PhD in Criminal Justice from University of Cincinnati, USA. He's a TEDx speaker and an active scholar whose articles have appeared in the International Journal of Police, Science and Management. May I please invite Dr. Hanif Qureshi to the podium. Please give him a huge round of applause. Thank you.
Thank you. Distinguished panelists, my dear friends, a very good morning to you. I have had the pleasure of listening to such vast experiences from the panelists. Sudhendu Sinha sir, in Niti Aayog, he has always been guiding us regarding the future which Indian e-mobility should take place. Very interesting comments have come. I would like to respond to some of them. Rahul, you said that our EV journey, we have doubled our production, so that's a very positive sign. But I believe we are not at the tipping point yet. If you look at other countries of the world, China is more than, I think, 35 to 40% in EVs. Europe is at 20% or so. Even US, which is a little late starter, they are also at 10 to 12%. And in cars, we are in financial year 22-23, we were 0.93%. Last year, we sold 48,000 electric cars in the country. And year before that, it was 20,000. And year before that, it was a very small number. So in the entire country now, we have about 70,000 cars, which were subsidized in the FAME scheme, because FAME has an upper limit of 15 lakh rupees as the ex-factory cost. But cars which are costly are very small in numbers. They are in the premium segment. So that is a very small number we are looking at. So what we need to do is to, as you rightly said, that government is a big factor when it comes to what kind of technologies and in the promotion of industry. So government's effort should be to take the industry to that point where it becomes self-sustainable. And that, as the Niti Aayog has said, 30% by 2030. So unless we reach at least a level of 30%, it is at that time when probably we may become self-sustainable. Of course, in two-wheelers, we were at 4.5% in the last financial year. And only in electric three-wheelers, we crossed 50%. 52% were electric three-wheelers, but that is also mostly e-rickshaws, which are the smaller versions. In the L5 category, we are much low. So there is a lot of ground to be covered. And that is why the government intends to continue with its support for electric vehicles, be it in the form of PLIs or it may be in the form of FAME. So those things should continue. The next question which was raised was about the type of technology. What technology should be emphasized? So I agree with you there that it is not a question of technology A or technology B. It is where we have to reach. Our goal is decarbonization. Enough has been said about decarbonization. That is an objective all of us have to achieve. And each technology has its pluses or minuses. And when you say about taking a leap of faith, putting, just going ahead, and that may not be required. One of my hobbies used to be and is astronomy. I study a lot about astronomy. So astronomy is about, if you look at the universe, so when you look at distant galaxies and stars, you look at them through the light which is emanating from them. So if a star is, say, 2000 light years away, light has traveled for 2000 years. and then it has come to you. That means you are looking 2000 years back in time. So the further you look, you're looking back in time. So the age of the universe is 15 billion years. So if you can look at something which is 10 billion light years away or 12 billion light years away, that means you are almost looking at when the universe started. If you look closer, you are looking near to the present times. So you have an entire spectrum that you can look back into what happened. So you can look a billion years ago, you can look 50 million years ago. Wherever you, whatever type of history you want, you can look at it. And that is where the EV industry is there. If you look at China, they started pretty early. And you can see how they progressed. What has their private sector done, how their incentives have been, what are they incentivizing, how have their export policies been. Then you look at Europe, you look at US. So all of the countries are at different stages of progression. And what are the indicators? What is their penetration of electric vehicles? What are the quantum of the subsidies? And what is the public spending on electric vehicles? So if you, last couple of weeks, we have been doing this exercise looking at different countries, and we found that as penetration in countries increases of the electric vehicles, so public spending is rising on electric vehicles, so the subsidies or the incentives which the government providing, that is coming down, that is tapering off. And last 1 or 2 years, a number of countries have almost finished off with their subsidies or reduced them to a very minuscule level. That we have noticed. Therefore, the lesson for us is that we must continue to incentivize, because we are still some distance away from that point where it will be self-sustaining. And that we believe will come when, say, we go at 30% or 40% or 50%. And that is probably still 4 or 5 years away. So that is the reason that government subsidies should continue. But the question is, how much and for what technology and for what category of vehicles? So we talked about electric trucks. So what should we do with electric trucks? I mean, we have to incentivize those sectors which we believe are the sectors where maximum decarbonization will take place, and industry has already reached beyond the academics. It has been beyond the drawing board. It is commercially available and viable. At least it should be viable. So these are the questions which we must discuss, and we must reach a conclusion, because ultimately, like in the government, like in the public sector, the bottom line is what counts finally. So in the government also, it is the what quantum of incentives and in what shape the incentives should come, those decisions have to be reached. And then we also talked about the charging infrastructure for buses. Buses are, I believe, one of the most important components of our decarbonization strategy. One reason is that there's a very low number of self-owned vehicles in India. A lot of people travel by buses. So not only we will be making life easier for them, but also they contribute one of the largest to the road transport carbonization. And a beautiful concept of aggregation has been developed by CSL, which Vishal so nicely explained. So aggregation, we understand that if you have large numbers, it will bring down prices. So it's economical for everybody. But that is not the only benefit. There are many unforeseen benefits. So standardization of contracts. When one OEM is supplying buses to one state in one contract and supplying to another state in another contract, and imagine if we have a similar contract across all states, it gives much better visibility to the OEM. They can plan their production if they have visibility. We talked about charging. So that's right, it was pointed out that about 9,000, now it is about 12,000 public charging stations are there in India, and that translates to about 17,000 charging points. Every charging station has a number of charging points. But it is an important fact to note that, as Vishal said, that most of the charging takes place at home. So this is only opportunity charging, mostly, which is the public charging. So we must recognize that opportunity charging is separate than the regular charging, which is like base load of a thermal power station, if you know about that. So, and if you look at the utilization of public charging stations today, I think it is about 5% or less than that. So public charging stations are there, but utilization is very less. People are charging at home. But definitely the need for public charging stations exists that reduces the range anxiety, and that is why FAME scheme had set apart 1,000 crores for public charging stations. But if you talk about buses, then we should recognize that, as from Maharashtra, Mr. Channe, we have heard that the most of the charging should take place at the bus depots. But the opportunity charging, which can be say 30 minutes, the top-up charging can take place in between in the daytime, and that will reduce the time of charging and the time which is wasted there. So that will solve the scheduling problem, and that is why we look in astronomy. When we are looking back, we can look at different countries and see how they have done it, because there are many countries who have a large number of electric buses. So those things can be done. And now people have realized that electric buses are actually cheaper than diesel buses. Initial cost of electric bus may be 1.5 crores or so. Diesel bus is only 35-40 lakhs or something. But when CESL did the tendering, the rates which were there for diesel buses, I think, crossed 100 rupees, 105, 100 rupees. And when e-buses tendering was there, the rates came down to initially 59 rupees, then 50 rupees. And in one of the tenders, it was 40 and 39 rupees also. Why is that? There is a theory by Gottfriedson and Hershey. It's called a low self-control theory. So low self-control theory says that we allow ourselves instant gratification. So if we allow instant gratification, then there are some negative consequences to that. So cost of a bus is very high. So people say, "Yaar, it is a very expensive bus." STUs are already running in losses. वो बोलते हैं हम तो 40 लाख की बस लेंगे. Why should we take a 1.5 crore bus? But when you look at the total cost of ownership, electric bus is coming to 40 rupees a kilometer, and diesel is going at 80 or 90. And even without the subsidy, the rates are much lower than the diesel buses. And in that running rates discovered per kilometer, the cost of the charging station is also included. So there is an upstream and a downstream infrastructure. The downstream, which is a charging point and charging equipment, that will be provided by the operator. And that cost is also included. Upstream, of course, the transformers has to be provided by the state government. Therefore, even without subsidy, is an economical proposition to run electric buses. And that is why our Honorable Prime Minister, during the visit to the US, along with US President, they announced a joint effort to set up a payment security mechanism for 10,000 electric buses. And all of us are working towards that vision. And we think that once the payment security mechanism is established, not only the initial 10,000 buses which were announced, but probably we can go beyond that. So I believe that this is one of the greatest opportunities where we can decarbonize through the buses. But of course, other sectors are there. Last year, India produced about 2.6 crore vehicles in 22-23, out of which 1.59 crore vehicles were two-wheelers. So unlike Western countries, India is a country which moves on two-wheelers and three-wheelers. So there also we need to think what is the strategy to electrify and to do the electrification there. So, I mean, e-mobility is a large area, and all of us, can go on for hours and hours on that. But EV mobility is like they say कि ये इश्क नहीं आसान, एक आग का दरिया है और डूब के जाना है. So it's like a river of fire and you have to swim to get across. So there are many hurdles and challenges. But I believe when we look at the people who have had more experience than us, who know more than us, and we interact with them, and we meet in such forums facilitated by Messe Frankfurt, then, then we learn. And through our learning, we can plan our moves. And that is how the vision of a developed India by 2047 can be realized. As our Prime Minister has said, this is a challenge which all of us have to accept and all of us have to work together to achieve that vision. So we can be India is actually at a cusp. We can be the global leaders. We have the technology, we have the manpower, and we have the vision. It is just that we need to come together, decide, and take action. Maybe we are in the government or we are in the industry side, but the vision has to be achieved together. And the government is always here to support the industry, to take it towards those objectives about which we all so fondly discuss in these forums. And I thank Messe Frankfurt for calling me here. It has been a pleasure to listening to all of my distinguished colleagues here. Thank you very much. Jai Hind.